Okay, so today we're diving deep into Sonic. This new EVM Layer 1 blockchain that's making some pretty big claims about speed and how efficient it is.
Yeah.
Now, whether you're listening to this because you're a developer and you're curious about a new platform, or you're an investor who's, maybe doing due diligence, or you're just someone who likes to keep up with the cutting edge of blockchain tech, well, this deep dive should give you a good idea of what Sonic's all about.
Yeah.
We've gone through all their introductory material and the token details and their blog, and we've tried to kind of pull out all the most important insights so you don't get lost in the technical stuff.
Right.
Basically, we want to come away from this knowing what Sonic is and what makes it special and how it's built.
Exactly.
So let's get into it.
So right off the bat, Sonic's making a big statement calling themselves the highest performing EVM Layer 1 blockchain. And
highest performing, huh?
Yeah, and they're talking some serious numbers too, like 400,000 transactions per second and sub-second finality. So
that's fast.
Yeah, for DeFi applications that rely on super quick transactions, think about like on-chain order books that could compete with like centralized exchanges or liquidations that happen instantly or just swapping tokens without any lag. I mean, this is a network that's built for speed.
Right. So it's not just about being fast. It's about what that speed allows them to do.
Right.
Now, every blockchain has its kind of fuel, its engine. And for Sonic, that's the S token. Right. So what can you tell us about how that works within the network?
So the S token, it's like the gas for the Sonic network, just like other Layer 1 blockchains. And it's got a few main jobs.
Okay.
First off, it's what you use to pay those transaction fees, what we usually call gas.
Makes sense.
Second, it helps keep the network secure through staking. So users can lock up their S tokens and help validate transactions and earn rewards in return.
Got it.
And then third, having S tokens gives you a say in how the network evolves. Through governance, you can vote on proposals and influence where the Sonic blockchain is headed.
So pretty standard stuff for a Layer 1 token. But there's also this thing about upgrading FTM to S1-to-1. What's the thinking behind that?
Right. So if you zoom out a bit, this ability to switch from Fantom's FTM token directly to Sonic's S token at a 1-to-1 rate, well, it suggests that there's a connection or maybe a migration strategy going on between the two ecosystems. Could be a way to pull in existing Fantom users and their liquidity to this new platform.
Makes sense.
By offering this easy upgrade path, it makes it much smoother for people who are curious about Sonic to come over and try it out.
So it's all about lowering those barriers to entry.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the S token. Now let's get a little bit more technical and talk about what's going on under the hood of Sonic.
Sure.
They got a few key pieces of tech that they like to highlight, starting with their consensus mechanism, Sonic CS 2.0. Sounds pretty complited.
Mm-hmm.
What is it and why is it important?
Yeah, Sonic CS 2.0, it's described as a DAG-based consensus protocol, and DAG stands for Directed Acyclic Graph, which is a different way to organize data than the usual linear chain you see in most blockchains.
Okay.
So think of a typical blockchain like a single line where transactions get added one after the other. But a DAG, it's more like a web where transactions can be processed and verified at the same time.
So parallel processing.
Exactly. And Sonic CS 2.0, the way it gets its speed and efficiency is by overlapping elections. That's how the nodes, the computers on the network, agree on what's going on. They do this concurrently, and they say that this gives them 2x speed and 68% memory reduction.
Wow, those are some big improvements.
Yeah, and they also use 0-1 matrix representations for voting structures to make those agreement processes even more efficient.
Okay, so I think I'm starting to get it, but can you maybe break that down a bit more for our listeners who might not be as familiar with all these technical terms?
Yeah, sure. So imagine you have a bunch of computers that need to agree on something like who won an election. In a typical system, they might all vote one after the other, which can take a while.
Right.
But with this matrix representation, it's like they're all voting at the same time, using a more compact and efficient way to represent their votes.
So kind of like a more streamlined and parallel way of reaching consensus.
Exactly. And that's how they can handle so many transactions so quickly and use less resources.
Got it. So overlapping elections and matrix representations, it's some pretty clever engineering.
Yeah.
They also mention Sonic VM. Is that their version of the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine?
Yeah, that's right.
And maybe for folks who are new to all of this, can you explain what EVM Layer 1 actually means and why it matters?
Sure. EVM stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine. It's basically like the software environment where smart contracts, those little programs on Ethereum and other compatible blockchains run. And layer one means we're talking about the base blockchain itself, like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Okay.
So when you put it together, an EVM layer one blockchain is a fundamental network that can run smart contracts made for the Ethereum world.
So Sonic is building on top of what Ethereum has already done.
Exactly. And that's really important because it means developers can use the same tools and languages they already know, like Solidity and Viper, to build on Sonic.
Right. So it's all about compatibility and making it easy for developers to switch over.
Right.
And Sonic VM is their specific execution environment for those smart contracts. And they emphasize that it's lightning fast, which makes sense given their focus on speed. And they also say it's 100% EVM compatible.
Yeah, and that's crucial because it means developers can just bring their existing Ethereum projects over to Sonic without having to rewrite everything.
So it's a huge time saver.
Yeah. And they also say that Sonic VM provides increased security and reduced app crashes, which is a big deal for both developers and users. It suggests a more stable and reliable environment for building and running decentralized apps.
Well, it's not just about speed, it's about reliability and security too.
Exactly.
Okay, so along with this execution environment, they've also got SonicDB. Sounds like that's their data storage solution. What's special about it?
So SonicDB is designed specifically for the different computers that make up the blockchain network, those running RPC services, which allow apps to interact with the blockchain.
Right.
The ones verifying transactions and those just observing the network. And its main focus is on low latency, meaning that those nodes can access the data they need really quickly, which is super important for processing transactions fast. And they also emphasize low storage requirements and low-cost maintenance, which are crucial for the network to grow and be sustainable in the long run. Having a database that's specifically optimized for blockchain operations can make a huge difference in how well the whole system performs.
So it's all about having each piece of the system work together seamlessly.
Right.
And then we have the Sonic Gateway. It sounds like that's their bridge to connect with other blockchains.
Yeah, it is. And they're calling it a native bridge, which means it's deeply integrated into the core of the Sonic network. They claim it's the fastest and most secure way to bridge from Ethereum and beyond, which is essential for any new Layer 1 that wants to attract users and their assets from other chains.
Right, because if you can't move your assets easily, then what's the point?
Exactly.
And it's good to know that they've had security audits done on the gateway. Gives people more confidence when they're moving their crypto around.
Absolutely. Security is paramount.
So let's talk about the developers out there who might be listening and thinking, hey, maybe I should build on this Sonic platform. What are some of the key takeaways for them?
Well, Sonic is really pushing the ease of getting started. They talk about being able to easily deploy contracts and verify contracts through their platform.
Okay.
They also say they have a whole suite of tooling and infra to support developers, which means there's a good ecosystem with the resources needed to build, test, and launch decentralized applications.
So it's like a one-stop shop for developers.
Yeah, pretty much. And maybe the biggest draw is their fee monetization model.
Okay, tell me more about that.
They say developers can keep 90% of your app's fees on Sonic based on how much activity their apps generate on the network.
Wow, 90%, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge incentive that could pull in a lot of developers who are looking for new ways to make money from their creations.
So they're really trying to attract talent and build up that ecosystem.
Exactly.
Now, what about the regular users? What are the main benefits for them?
So for everyday users, the big selling points are those real sub-second confirmation times. Imagine using a decentralized app and seeing your transaction go through in less than a second. It would feel as smooth as using a normal website.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and they say the average transaction cost is 0.00001, so it's super affordable compared to some other networks.
Yeah, that's way cheaper than what we're used to on some of the bigger chains.
Exactly, and they recommend using Rabi Wallet for the best experience, which suggests they've optimized things for that specific wallet. And as we talked about with the Sonic Gateway, you can easily move your assets from any chain, which makes it simple to get started with Sonic.
So speed, affordability, and user-friendliness. That's a pretty good combo.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about community and growth. Sonic seems to be putting a lot of effort into building up their user base and attracting new projects.
Yeah, they definitely are. They have this ongoing Sonic Points airdrop happening where you can qualify for a huge airdrop of around 200 million S tokens, and they're also talking about Sonic Gems, which sounds like another way they're rewarding and engaging the community.
So lots of freebies for early adopters.
Right. And they've got an innovator fund set up, which shows that they're serious about supporting promising new projects building on Sonic.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, and for people who want to connect with the team and the community in person, they're hosting Sonic Summit 2025 in Vienna this May, which could be a big event for growing the network and fostering collaboration.
Yeah, summits are always a good way to gauge the energy and excitement around a project.
Definitely.
Speaking of excitement, their March 25 newsletter makes it sound like things are moving pretty quickly for them. What were some of the highlights that stood out to you?
So they highlighted the launch of several major DeFi apps on the network.
Nice.
And the fact that Sonic's TVL reached record heights. TVL meaning total value locked, which is basically how much crypto is being used within the DeFi apps on the platform.
So basically more people are using Sonic and putting their money into it.
Exactly. Both of those are strong signs that the ecosystem is growing and becoming more active. They also mentioned that they've integrated USDCE on Sonic, which is important because it gives people access to a well-known and highly liquid stablecoin for trading and lending within the Sonic DeFi space.
So it's all about building out that functionality and making it easier to use.
Right. And then there was this interesting mention of a collaboration, Sonic x Gasly, which might seem a bit unusual for a blockchain project, but it points to their connection with speed and high performance that goes beyond just the technical side of things and into the world of motorsports.
It's a clever marketing move.
Yeah, it definitely catches your attention.
The newsletter also talked about some efforts to bring Bitcoin into the Sonic DeFi ecosystem, which is a hot topic right now.
Yeah, they mentioned SCBTC and LBTC, which are basically ways to create versions of Bitcoin that can be used within Sonic's decentralized finance apps.
So you could basically use your Bitcoin to participate in all the DeFi action happening on Sonic.
Exactly. It could open up a lot of new opportunities and bring in more liquidity to the network.
So they're thinking about how to connect with the wider crypto world.
Definitely.
And it's not all serious business either.
Yeah.
They've got a meme mania competition on Sonic with a prize pool of 1 million OS tokens. Sounds like a fun way to get people involved and generate some buzz.
Yeah, those kind of initiatives can be really effective in building a strong and active community.
Absolutely. It's all about creating a sense of shared ownership and excitement.
Right. And on a more technical note, they've adopted the Chainlink standard for cross-chain interoperability and verifiable data, which is a big deal because Chainlink is a leading provider of those secure and reliable data feeds that are crucial for many DeFi apps.
So it's all about building trust and ensuring that things run smoothly.
Yeah, and then to top it all off, they're hosting a DeFi hackathon on Sonic with $295,000 in prizes, which shows how committed they are to supporting the development of innovative new decentralized finance applications.
So they're ticking all the boxes: robust technology, strong incentives for developers, a good user experience, and a focus on building a strong community.
Yeah, they seem to have a pretty comprehensive approach.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what would you say are the most important takeaways from our exploration of Sonic?
Well, the thing that really jumps out is their relentless focus on achieving high performance, especially their claims about transaction speed and finality. The S token seems well designed with clear uses within the network, and that one-to-one upgrade path from FTM could really drive adoption.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to watch.
Definitely. And the growth of their ecosystem with all those new applications, the rising TVL and those community initiatives, it all suggests that they've got some serious momentum in a very competitive space.
So for our listeners out there, whether you're a developer looking for a truly fast platform, or you're an investor searching for the next big thing in blockchain, or you just like to stay on top of what's happening in the crypto world, Sonic is definitely a project worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it's raising some interesting questions, like with that potential for super high transaction throughput, how could Sonic change the way we think about decentralized applications? What new possibilities could open up that we haven't even thought of yet? And as more people move from FTM to S, what will that mean for the broader DeFi ecosystem and the adoption of these new layer 1 solutions? It's a dynamic space, and it'll be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Well said. So that's our deep dive into Sonic. For all the links and more information, check out the show notes. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.